we are going to use what we know about solving systems with elimination to answer some word problems and connect systems of linear equations to real-world problems. So a landscaper buys 4 peonies and 9 geraniums for $190. Another landscaper buys 5 peonies and 6 geraniums for $185. So write and solve a system of linear equations to find the cost of each peony. So we are going to have to write a system of linear equations, which means we're going to have 2 equations. So we're going to talk about the 2 different landscapers. We're going to say peonies are going to be the x variable and geraniums are going to be the y. So it says the first landscaper bought 4 peonies and 9 geraniums for $190. So that's actually our first equation. It's written right out there for us. So the second equation says that another landscaper buys 5 peonies and 6 geraniums for $185. So we have it all written out for us, which makes it pretty easy. Now we have our 2 equations. The next thing is to solve it. So we have been learning about the elimination method, and that's what we're going to use today. So I do need to make sure that I have a coefficient that is opposite from its other partner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my x coefficients opposite. So I'm thinking about what 4 and 5, what their least common multiple is. I can make it 20. So I'm going to make the first equation, I'm going to multiply the entire thing by 5. So 5 times 4 is a positive 20. I'm going to multiply my entire second equation by a negative 4 so that this negative 4 times 5x is a negative 20x because I want opposite coefficients. So all I do is I rewrite my equations that are multiplied. So 5 times 4x is 20x. 9 times 5y is 45y. And then 190 times 5 is 950. So I did my first equation, now we do the second. Negative 4 times 5x is a negative 20x. That's what we wanted. We have negative 4 times 6y is a negative 24y. And then 185 times a negative 4 is negative 740. So we have completed our different steps of lining up our equations, but also making sure that the coefficients are opposite. So by multiplying by a 5 and a negative 4, we've created coefficients that are the opposite of each other for x. We have a positive 20 and a negative. Once we do that, we just have to add our 2 equations. 20x plus negative 20x is 0. They cancel out. They're eliminated, which is good. That's what we want. 45 plus a negative 24 is 21y equals, and then 950 plus a negative 740 is 210. So our x values are crossed out, they're eliminated. So now I'm going to solve for y by dividing by 21. So I get that y equals 10. So in my final answer that I'm going to start putting together, I have my x and my y values. So I know that my x and my y. So I have that y is 10. So now we have to find out what x is. In order to find x, I just go ahead and substitute in y for one of my equations. I'm going to choose to just do the very first equation here, and I'm going to plug it in right there. So 9 times 10. So I'm going to rewrite that as 4x plus 9 times 10 equals 190. 9 times 10 becomes 90 equals 190. Now I just solve my 2-step equation. I subtract 90 from both sides. I get 4x equals 100. When I divide both sides by 4, I think of different quarters. 4 quarters make $1, so that's 25 cents, or x equals 25. So I have my 25 for my coordinate. Now, I have to label what x and y mean because we're talking about a real-life situation. So x's are peonies and y's geraniums. We already had written that earlier. Now, let's see. It says write and solve a system of linear equations to find the cost of each peony. Well, our peonies are $25 each. So they're $25. And that's going to be your final answer. Now we have another scenario that we will write an equation and then solve through. So it says there are 340 calories in 2 cups of cereal and 1 cup of milk. There are 570 calories in 3 cups of cereal with 2 cups of milk. So now we're going to write and solve equations, and we're going to find out the number of calories in 1 cup of cereal without milk. Okay, so these are the same situations to find our equation. Go ahead and pause the video and write down the 2 equations that we're going to have in our system. It's a big hint. Each sentence is an equation. All right, so the 2 equations I have are explicitly what they tell us, okay? So it says with 2 cups of cereal, so cups of cereal are X, with 1 cup of milk, which is now Y, we have 340 calories. And then in 3 cups of milk, or cereal, which is X, with 2 cups of milk, again Y, that is 570 calories. So I created my 2 equations. So now, next with systems of linear equations is we have to multiply our equations so that our coefficients are opposite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my Y's, because I can make my top equation, if I multiply it by -2, I can make my coefficient for Y a -2, which is opposite from my +2Y at the bottom. So when I multiply this whole equation by -2, I get -4X minus 2Y, and then 340 times a -2 is a -680. And then I bring over this equation as well. I don't change the second equation. We didn't need to. Sometimes it's better if we can just change one, but I have to line everything up because now our coefficients for Y are opposite. That's the whole thing we wanted. Once we have them opposite, the opposite coefficients and that they're lined up, we add both equations together. -4X plus 3X is a -1X. -2Y plus 2Y is 0. They eliminate. They are gone. And then a 680 and -680 plus 570 is -110. So to get X by himself, we divide by -1 on both sides, and we get that X is equal to 100. X is equal to 110 positive. Now let's go back and see what our equation's really asking us. So we know that X is 110. Okay. And let's see, it says use and solve in the system of linear equations to find the number X of calories in 1 cup of cereal without milk. Well, guys, we already found what X was. We don't have to find Y. X is already done. It's 110 calories in 1 cup of cereal with no milk. So we are actually done, and we only had to find out what X is. So it's always interesting to read the problem and see if you can just answer one of the variables, and then you might be done, like in this example. So that's our answer, and that's it.